Hi everyone, Snowbee here. Welcome to my channel. I am still on the recovery from COVID, so please try to ignore the throat clearing and other things I have to do now with these holdovers. For some, January was harder than others, and February is a time to start to sprout from what maybe felt like being buffeted in January. And if it was good for you in January, February is a time to capitalize on that wave of good. So in this video, I am going to be discussing the biggest themes, changes, and opportunities February of 2022 is bringing in for all 12 signs. This applies via your ascendant sign, but you may use your moon sign for a more emotional themed lens. Please be advised that all readings are only part of the story, and where you have planets placed will augment, add, or take away from these themes. First, let's talk about what is going on, big moments this February, and then I will go through by each ascendant. We're starting February with a new moon in Aquarius. This new moon is going to be conjunct Saturn, and Sun, Moon, and Saturn are all still square Uranus in Taurus. So if you guys are here, I'm guessing that you're not new to the understanding that new moons are a time where new beginnings can begin to emerge and or plant seed or become in the workings of taking form. So these can be really good times for us to either initiate something, plan something. Specifically, new moons involve the sun and the moon. So it involves us, it involves our authority figures, superiors, it involves our sense of who we are and our spirit. And that is taking on the energy of our emotional body and self, our habits, our responses. And this time around, it is conjunct Saturn in Aquarius. So it has to do with our responsibilities. Now, coming off the heels of January, whether you got buffeted or whether it was a very productive and profitable time for you, the things that you learned, that you did, that you orchestrated in January, or the things that were revealed to you. And so now what I see us being able to do is to take all those new things that were very supported in January, and now they're coming up into the square as well with our responsibilities and with our authority figures. But this makes sense, because the new things that we might be trying to implement, or the old things that maybe we were trying to bring back in January, or just new reinventions, there was a lot of that happening in any area of life in January, are now coming to a head. They are now joining with our responsibilities and authority figures, which might have even given us a little bit of trouble in January, but not much. Now we are taking that on personally. And so this force of resolution is going to be had between the Uranus aspect, the unconventional, the chaotic, the unexpected, maybe rebelliousness, intellectualism, or non-commitment, and the new moon conjunct Saturn. So specifically on the 4th through the 7th, Mercury turns direct in Capricorn and then starts to go forward again. So Mercury finally out of retrograde. And after this confrontation with yours, how these new changes fit into your responsibilities, how it is aggravating the authorities, and what it really means, and how it's really challenging you, yourself, your external and internal, to be new. The 14th is Valentine's Day, and it's a mega Valentine's Day. So we're going to have Venus in Capricorn, and it's going to be conjunct Mars, trine Uranus, sextile Jupiter. This is absolutely amazing. So Venus and Mars were also conjunct at the beginning of the month, and that's also been providing us with a lot of support too. Our values are really being supported by action. Whenever we have trines in predictive astrology, especially, it's understood to be something that is very quickly happening between two things. And it's going to involve the Venus and Mars energy that we mentioned earlier. And so it's not just obviously our values and our actions, our desires, and our go-getting those desires, but it's also going to be things like relationships themselves, our relationships and our values, our money. And with the conjunction as opposed to the square or the opposition, Venus and Mars can solve this malefic influence by expulsion of a little bit of the Martian energy, which is overtaking Venus, so as to balance the two out. And so expulsion of the energy can happen in whatever way that people need for it to happen. With the help of Jupiter. So with the help of, you know, changing our beliefs maybe, or going somewhere, having an adventure, or just actually having people you consider to be confidants, teachers, or even mentors. So all in all, this is a very explosive Valentine's Day, but with a more material or refined edge. On the 15th, Mercury enters Aquarius. Immediately the next day, we're going to have a full moon with the sun still in Aquarius and the moon in Leo. And then the very next day for some, but on the 18th for us over here, the sun is then going to exit Aquarius and enter Pisces. So on the 24th, the sun is finally going to conjoin with Jupiter, and we can sort of see the script that's playing out. In January, we were having a lot of experimentation, or the world forcing us out of the old, even if we felt we were not ready. And then the beginning of February following that gives us a chance to see how these new things that we've been trying out are aligning with our spirits as well as our soul, and as well as our position in the world and our responsibilities to the world. And then we have the sun conjoining Jupiter finally, so it demonstrates that now we have a new, broader outlook. And finally, the story closes because we end the month on the 28th with Venus in Capricorn still, conjunct Mars in Capricorn still, and they have now conjoined with Pluto. So all of what we said before is now joining the planet of transformation, deep emotional reactions, value systems, how we make money, maybe our monetary status, our drive, our defensiveness, what we're motivated for, and where our strength is being transformed on a very deep emotional level. No matter what, it is going to feel like shedding the old and finally entering into the new, and that is the very last foot that we're going to leave off on before going into March. I hope you liked the overview and found it really useful, but now I'm going to go into how it applies for each ascendant sign so that we can fine tune and maybe get to what and where and how these themes that we've been talking about, although they are going to take place, where and how specifically are they going to manifest in each of our lives. As it's Aquarius's birth month, I will start from that sign and go in sequential zodiacal order. For Aquarius, this new moon and Saturn conjunction is happening in your first house. There may be accidents, there might be name or appearance changes, maybe something new that you're trying to do or you're trying to control is coming up against your home, your family. In fact, the area of all of these changes is going on in your home, your mental and emotional well-being. And to be honest, the theme of mental health is so incredibly huge for Aquarius. This dynamic is going to implicate things about your physical body, your appearance, and your overall independence. Sun and moon are your 6th and 7th, so this has to do with relationships, vocations even. This is about business deals as well. Maybe how much time you're spending at work. And maybe your overall health. Again, this is a very big mental health thing for Aquarius this month and last month. On the 4th and 7th, Mercury turns direct in your 12th house of Capricorn and begins to go forward. So again, those themes of aloneness, illness, maybe mental illness, or just secrecy and spirituality, maybe looking at how these new things that you're trying to get into are affecting your mental health. Maybe you need to be alone in order to do this, maybe journaling. Maybe some piece of information, maybe some forum, maybe some document. In order to have these changes that you're trying to make, name changes, appearance changes. Starting on the 2nd, but really on the 14th, Venus is conjunct Mars, and this is where it's going to be sextiling Jupiter and trining Uranus. So this concoction is happening in the 12th, 2nd, and 4th for Aquarius. Jupiter already having gone into your 2nd house, the house of money and the house of emotional and material security and esteem. These new things that involve your property or your family are getting very much supported by your values, by your security, by that money that you're likely making. The only thing that I would say is that this Venus-Mars conjunction is a little bit aggressive to be in a house like the 12th house. And so I can see a lot of it acting out in a very subconscious way. So a lot of mental considerations, a lot of wisdom, a lot of knowledge, a lot of new ideas, rebellious thought, innovation, discoveries. There can be a lot of that, and Venus and Mars can help you with that. Implementing some sort of therapy, reaching out to friends or new social networks. Whether that means you have to spend a little money with that second house, or whether it means gaining some money also helps you being able to do that. On the 15th, Mercury enters your first house, so this is now Mercury bringing in those ideas and those understandings following after the new moon. This could be you better being able to articulate maybe what's going on with you, or you being able to methodically or skillfully put into place these controls or changes that you have been trying to see. There's a full moon following directly after on the 16th, and this is happening in your first house and also in your 7th house of relationships, who you are as a person versus who you are in your relationship. And here, this could be a relationship with a partner, or it could also be you tying yourself up in your relationships with a business or even to your family members. And there's probably going to be a very big forming or breaking of one of these committed, responsible partnerships that you formed. The sun finally goes into Pisces on the 18th. And conjoins with Jupiter by the 24th. And so this is a time for you to really, really, really be solidifying emotional security and really, really, really be making money. This is a great energy and house layout for a lot of enterprise. Even if the thing that you were ending beforehand was a business relationship, I see either a new one being found or the seeds of a new one being cultivated here. Ending the month, Venus, Mars, and Pluto are all going to be in your 12th house. So it's coming back at you again in that house. You've been doing this first house, 12th house balancing act all month of this action and activity going on behind the scenes and in secret. And you bringing a lot of what has been going on in your mind and with your struggles and with your newfound realizations into the more material world. For Pisces ascendant, this new moon is going to be taking place in your 12th house. It's joined by Saturn and squaring Uranus, which is in your 3rd house of your daily life, your technology use, your communication, your learning, your studying. So a lot of new philosophy and maybe even a newfound, what we could call either spiritual, religious, or even, I think, political understandings are coming to you now. Neighborhood environment and the people in and around you have been up and down, in flux, changing. That's where a lot of this has been going on for you. And it's on a collision course with these newfound ideas and mental health needs that you are now prioritizing and addressing, or being forced to prioritize and address depending on how January went for you. I could see your responsibilities and your duties aspect potentially manifesting as what's known as the parents inside of all of our heads, telling us what we must do and what we have to do. And ultimately with transits like this, you can go through a period of isolation or solitude. Now, this can also be a type of mental isolation where you feel like you're in limbo and you are the only one understanding this or doing this or embarking on this. On the 4th and the 7th, Mercury goes direct in your 11th house. So again, this is your house of friends, large groups, organizations. Just like with Aquarius, you can also start attending some counseling with this new information that you've been getting, or a change in environment that you have had. This can start to change your articulation of or understanding of your goals and your ultimate hopes. Starting on the 2nd, but really on the 14th, Venus and Mars are going to conjoin in your 11th house. So this transit for Pisces ascendant specifically seems like a little bit of a whirlwind transit. Jupiter is in your 1st house, starting to affect your 5th and 9th specifically from itself. A Jupiter 1st house here and a Jupiter 10th house here very much brings expansion, changes, and attractiveness in how the overall world is going to see you. Mars is a slight malefic, so of course it can bring you a little bit of trouble in the 11th as well, but it with Venus together sort of seems to strengthen the Uranus aspect of radical new things. So maybe there's a radical new way of therapy or counseling or mental health. Maybe you're taking a radically different approach or hanging with new radically different people. I would just say to stay open, stay flexible, On the 15th, Mercury enters Aquarius. It's cutting through a little bit of that nebulousness of the 12th house. And as Mercury rules your 4th house, it is connecting the two houses that most directly affect our emotional health and our emotional happiness. So even though it's going to come up eventually in square Uranus, I think that being in the sign of Aquarius, it's in a fairly good and stable place. Immediately after the full moon on the 16th takes place in your 12th and in your 6th. The 6th is not a very easy house for the moon to be in. I mean, neither was the 12th, but with that whirlwind on the 14th, what I really see on the 16th is a lot of stress for your routine, specifically at work, or just your routine for your health. Maybe your newfound mental health strategies are also relying on some physical health changes. There was also on the 14th a connection with your 1st house as well, so that would also be indicative of that. On the 18th, the Sun enters Pisces, and on the 24th, it joins Jupiter. As I said before, this is a powerful conjunction, and to have them on your 1st house means that there is a lot of opportunity to really take action during transits like this, starting on the 14th, but really, maybe planning and leading up to the 24th. This is a time when you can not only have changes to your, body, appearance, outlook, but this is a time to take independent, individualized action. This is a very strong time. This is a time when your influence will be heated, when your influence will be felt. You end with Venus, Mars conjoining with Pluto as well, back in that 12th house, and your newfound spirituality or your newfound understandings of things and the changes that it has made you want to direct upon your own life is going to see a conclusive transformation here, and not conclusive as though it's going to stop here, but one of the big chops, so to speak, is going to happen. For Aries ascendant, this new moon and Saturn conjunction is happening in your 11th house. So again, these themes, like we saw before, of friends, large organizations, counseling. Well, here I see the themes more so directed towards success. So in a lot of ways, we could see this as being a new moon that's functionally the seeds of success. It's also making that square to Uranus, which is sitting in your 2nd house and has been sitting in your 2nd house. So it can be this newness when it comes to how you make money, what your value system is like, how that incorporates into your family structure, at odds as well with these things, including the groups and organizations that you might be responsible for. On the 4th and 7th, Mercury goes direct and begins to move, and this is happening in the 10th house. So this could be the results of whatever was going on in January, whether you gained money, you lost some money, maybe you joined a new company. Either way, something that you were doing is probably causing society as a whole, or your little corner of society, I should say, to reevaluate how they think about you, specifically when it comes to what you say, how you think. Beginning on the 2nd and then really culminating on the 14th, Venus is going to be conjunct Mars, like we've talked about. This is also going to be in your 10th house of fame and career and just societal recognition. There could be a marriage even, or a divorce. This could even implicate something like parenthood, because it really does change the way that you function in society, how you're looked at in society, and your societal status or position. You could feel really energized about these changes that are going to happen for you. And even with this 2nd house energy going on here, these new things that you're trying to implement, or this new area that you're stepping into when it comes to your income and things like that. On the 15th, Mercury is coming to support this in Aquarius. This could sort of represent young people or people with new information coming into your network circles now. But this could also be a really powerful energy to also bring an aspect of planning to these new and individual endeavors that you're thinking about. There could also just be paperwork solidifying your individuality or indispensability to whatever endeavor you're embarking on. On the 16th is the full moon. This could be taking a relationship to the next level. This could also be you bringing in creativity into your workspace. This could honestly even be you registering as head of household for tax season for the first time ever. On the 18th, Sun enters Pisces in your 12th house. This can feel like a settling after this whirlwind type of energy earlier, or it could also feel like a chance to meditate on these things that you have put into motion this entire month. On the 24th, the Sun becomes conjunct with Jupiter, and so you could even get a little bit of guidance, a little bit of mentorship and help with understanding what to make of your new position or the aftermath of these new things that you've been bringing into your life. And on the 28th, Venus, Mars finally meet Pluto in your 10th house. So this complete in how society views you, in what you do for and give to and serve society, is having a complete overhaul and transformation. This is really a month for life purpose and direction changes for you. And also that implicates the way that your family structure is set up, as well as how you make your money, and how you decide who you're committed to as well as what you're going to commit to. For Taurus ascendant, this new moon is taking place in your 10th house. So this is definitely going to be you planting the seeds of how you want to be seen in society. So this could be you trying to start on the way to maybe changing your job or building your new career. This new moon also implicates your 3rd and 4th houses, which the sun and moon rule over. So definitely we can see that what you have been doing, but especially now with these new seeds that you can plant in your public life, is going to have a direct impact on your private life. That means the life inside of your home, your domestic life. And it's also going to be having a little bit of change when it comes to your general surroundings, your general commute, those types of things. And that's probably already been happening to you a little bit with Uranus in your 1st house, but these things here can really speed up that process. On the 4th and 7th, Mercury turns direct and begins to move, and this is in your 9th house of Capricorn, and 9th house is the area of studies, travels, as always, foreign lands. I definitely see this as trying on a new ideology, and this can be really beneficial to you because you're trying to change your role and position in life. You're trying to change who you are on that 1st house. And previously you had been rethinking and ruminating over the things having to do with this house, but now it's sort of like compiling and collecting your thoughts on this matter, on these new ideas. Maybe you went somewhere farther than you expected to go, or you just did travel, in fact, and now you're bringing those new styles or bringing those new ideas or bringing that new language or bringing that new degree even, and you are having that impact, what we were talking about earlier, having to do with your 1st and your 10th house. Starting on the 2nd and really on the 14th, Venus and Mars are conjoined, and they are getting supported by Jupiter and Uranus, and they are conjoining in that same 9th house. So after you get information from, study from, talk with, and make plans based on these travels, this new ideology, or these new people, now you are bringing in Venus and Mars. It's getting supported by Jupiter in your 11th house and Uranus in your 1st house. And this very much reminds me of a take a foreign trip energy, maybe fall in love, maybe have a brief affair, and come back a totally changed person. But even if it's not something like that, it could definitely be something having to do with you finally going and getting that certificate, going and getting that degree, maybe even going and starting to learn that trade or that language. On the 15th, Mercury enters your 10th house. So this is definitely showing taking those understandings, that data, those teachings, maybe even just like with Aries, that document or that certificate that you finally got, and bringing it into the 10th house where it is going to have an impact on how society now sees you. And because Mercury implicates your 5th and 2nd house, this can definitely have benefits as to your overall education, maybe your romance, but really your overall creativity and your money-making ability. The full moon on the 16th is going to take place in your 10th house as well as your 4th. So this is very much reconciling those two aspects and areas of life, because all of this could have been even taking a little bit of a toll on your emotional health. Maybe you are focusing more on necessities than luxuries at this time, especially given the 2nd house energy that's all over the place. It could show a resolution of these things and finally bringing in more ease, but I think it would definitely depend on what planets and aspects you have there, because it could also show the need for further readjustment in order to restore that mental balance with all of these new things and considerations that are going on outside of the house. On the 18th, Sun enters Pisces and conjoins with Jupiter on the 24th. This is a really beneficial place already to have Jupiter, where you've had it for a while now. And with Sun joining it, it could definitely mean that maybe there's some sort of benefactor that you encounter, or maybe there's just you becoming more aligned with or recognized for the things that you have been doing, the changes that you have been making. You end the month with Venus and Mars finally meeting Pluto. So these new trips that you were taking or data that you were receiving that is in some way, shape, or form foreign, or a product of higher education or a product of mentorship, and that impact on your core beliefs, your core direction, completely sheds its old skin, and now it's going through that transformation. For Gemini ascendants, this new moon is going to be taking place in your 9th house, and it's going to be squaring Uranus, which is located in your 12th house right now. So I think more so here, this is definitely going to be talking about long journeys or some sort of higher education or some sort of research about something. And it is squaring something new that's taking place in your 12th house. So that house of solitude, that house of mental health and mental health struggles. So this could definitely be what started in January with support for maybe these new spiritual beliefs you're having, maybe your dealings with things that are considered foreign to you, or maybe adopting things that are foreign. And so now planting the seeds of being able to do that through things like a long sort of journey or some more intensive study. On the 4th and 7th, Mercury is going to move direct finally. It's in your 8th house of Capricorn. And for you, Gemini, Mercury is your first lord. So having it deposited right now in your 8th house is definitely going to make you feel this transit even more than other people do. It's not just going to be relegated to the areas of the things that are things that you typically hide. But the 8th house transits are never very happy-go-lucky, and it's probably going to have a direct effect on things that you do with your body and your emotional stability and just your home and domestic life. So I definitely see an ability to overcome a lot of these things, and not just using new information that you've been getting, but also your own personal insight. Maybe a lot of those things that you were doing, this newness that you're doing in your 12th house, where you're dealing with these new foreign spiritual practices, or donating to these new charities, or just trying these new mental health routines, maybe they're bringing up a lot of things. Maybe it's a type of inner child work. So now it's time to actually implement things that maybe it brought up in you. Following this, starting on the 2nd, but really on the 14th, you're going to have more activity in this 8th house with Venus and Mars. This time, fortunately, they have a sextile to Jupiter and a trine to Uranus in that 12th house. Still have a lot of those stuff of life types of things, but the depth of transformation of specifically your value system and your motivations and drives is going to be complete here. It's also getting support from Jupiter in the 10th house, so definitely the way that society sees you or your status in society could be impacted. And along with the 12th house of different types of mental illnesses, as well as just different categorizations, this could be discovering or taking on the understanding of maybe having a different mental illness, maybe having a certain type of disorder, whether it's something like ADHD, depression, bipolar, anything like that, and really discovering that. Or just honestly overhauling where you once were. Maybe you were going through a lot of depression. Maybe even January held some sort of more depressive themes for you. On the 15th, Mercury is now going into your 9th house. So it's getting out of that mucky area of the 8th, and then it's going into the area that we talked about earlier about studies and travels and core tenets, core beliefs. I definitely, like I told you before, see the theme of research, a very long trip, or a very long move. The full moon is going to take place not only in the 9th house, but also in the 3rd this time. I actually see an implementation of these new learnings, or maybe your routine does change because you are moving away to a further place, maybe to a different house as well. Really reestablishing those borders. On the 18th, the sun enters Pisces, so that's in your 10th house. So you're already getting some benevolence anyway in that area. And now with the sun coming here, there is a real presence. There's a real authority. There is maybe a real drive here. It becoming conjunct to Jupiter on the 24th further gives a lot of benefit. I see boundaries changing. I see more communication about what you need or what you want, especially as that pertains to your status or the things that you can or can't take on. And with all of these changes that are going on, you do end the month on the 28th with Venus, Mars on top of Pluto in your 8th house. So one of the biggest transformations of your values, your money-making ability, your drive. This month definitely has some struggles. This month definitely has some a bit of a rocky road, but I definitely see the ability to harness a lot of this energy with bravery and with prioritization of your emotional sphere and emotional self. If you're not the type of person that usually does that, and sometimes Gemini ascendants aren't, I would say now is the time, because I do see better rewards coming from that than not. So for Cancer ascendant, the new moon Saturn conjunction is in your 8th house, and it is squaring Uranus, which is in your 11th house. So now there are seeds being planted in the 8th house for you. I am going to be honest with you. This is going to be a very, very transformative month for Cancer ascendants when it pertains to things that they are deeply attached to. So it's very much going to affect your actions that you can take in the world, and maybe even your appearance or how you appear to the world because of that. So maybe deep emotional attachments, maybe different habits that you harbored, or different lifestyle choices that you made before. Or maybe even some sort of death in the family, or death of something that you consider that is causing some tension with these new hopes, these new goals, and maybe even this new network circle that you're trying to build for yourself. With Saturn here, I think it's definitely about taking responsibility for yourself, for these big changes that need to happen, as well as things that you are holding on to. On the 4th and the 7th, Mercury goes direct in your 7th house. So for a while, there was a reevaluation of the things that you are committed to, your relationships, with a bunch of things, including your family. But definitely for this one, I definitely see it as romantic in some way, shape, or form, or something intimate, even if that's a very, very, very close, intimate friendship. So information and communication was definitely broken down in the last month, but now that it turns direct, it's going to move you in the way of having a clearer understanding. Now, that does not mean that it is this bright and cheery understanding, but it does have a more sober, truthful understanding of your relationship. Beginning on the 2nd and really culminating on the 14th, Venus and Mars are going to be in your 7th house, supported by Jupiter in your 9th house, and supporting Uranus in your 11th. So this creative, motivated, driven, value-changing, money-making energy of Venus and Mars coming into your 7th house is very, very explosive. The action and the value is really lining up here when it comes to your relationships, and you are getting benefit through mentors, maybe through teachers, or even your local pastor when it comes to these changes and this energy that you're devoting into this house this month. This is a great energy if you are vetting a new relationship, if you are trying to have discernment in your old relationship. Either bring back life, make new life there of all different types, whether it just means reinvigorating the relationship and bringing back spark, or potentially even expanding your family. So whether or not the results are what you thought that you may have wanted, I definitely see by the end of this month a change in your societal status that really does have to do with that committed relationship. On the 15th, Mercury goes into Aquarius, so it is bringing that new knowledge into the 8th house for you. This is going to be a tad bit of a bumpy ride. 8th house transits are never happy-go-lucky. It's bringing that detail and that pinpointed energy and that learning and understanding things into now your areas of those habits that we talked about earlier, maybe those lifestyle choices. And soon thereafter, on the 16th, there is a full moon in that 8th house again, and also in your 2nd house. So how your esteem, your money, your value judgments are also affecting that part of your life and affected by that part of your life. And now seeing all of those details, there's nowhere to hide from it anymore. Sun then moves into Pisces, which is in your 9th house, and it conjoins with Jupiter on the 24th. A sort of paternalistic figure that can help sort of shed some sort of light and give clarity to everything that's been going on. It's now illuminating new beliefs that you can take on, new lifestyle and maybe religious choices and beliefs that you can take on now. Sun also rules your 2nd house, so I definitely feel that this is an ending transit, which is very, very beneficial. We end the month on the 28th, where Venus and Mars go on top of Pluto in that 7th house again. So this has been a long time coming since the beginning of the month. Your relationship, the planet of relationship and the other planet of drive and getting what we actually want, on top of the planet of transformation in your house of relationships. Your relationships go through a major overhaul, and your commitment to this person, this relationship, and maybe even as a member of this family is going to go through a major transformation for you. For Leo ascendants, this new moon is happening in your 7th house, and it is with Saturn and squaring Uranus in your 10th house. You guys no doubt have been dealing with either some sort of fluctuation in what you do for society or how society is perceiving you. This could be definitely at work, but otherwise just eccentricities when it comes to your bosses, maybe eccentricities when it comes to what you're expected to be doing. That's usually occupation in the world. And with Saturn here, it is showing me that there is a lot of soberness about it. It might very much be about reevaluating and taking on more titles, maybe even joining a new company. Create really these changes that you want to create in how people see you, how they receive you, and what they expect from you in the world. This might also implicate a close and committed relationship, so maybe that's going to change as well, taking on more responsibilities or duties or shifting roles in your close personal relationships, maybe even family structure. Specifically in society, specifically as it pertains to your career and really where you want to go, this is a very strong month for that. So especially if you guys have been working on that in January, this is the bounce back month if it was hard, and this is the really laying foundation after you've looked into a few things or tried a few things in January. Then on the 4th and on the 7th, Mercury moves direct in your 6th house. You might have needed to make some changes at home. Domestic changes were getting rethought. Positions maybe in your relationship if you have one right now. And also positions at your job. I definitely see a lot of that here. How are you managing work and life balance? How are you managing your coworkers here? Your health, as well as your commitment to the company that you're in or your personal business that you're growing? And with Mercury implicating your 2nd and 11th house, I definitely think this is connected specifically to gains for you, to income, to how you either build up your esteem or build up your family unit, or more likely, how you go about making money, how you go about contributing into a large organization or an organization of your own creation, and how you basically make gains from your career or what you're doing for society. On the 2nd, but really on the 14th, Venus and Mars are coming conjunct. They are sextile to Jupiter and trine to Uranus, and their conjunction is in this 6th house again for you. So all of that creative energy that we talked about before, the drive, following the value, following the money is coming into the 6th house. All of those changes that you want to make and all of that restructuring and all of those battles that you have to get into, whether it's in the workplace, whether it's in your relationship, not even just domestic squabbles. This could be separating from someone as well. This could be that type of energy. It is creative, but it's supporting creation of things that are individualistic as well. It's making a really great aspect to Jupiter, which is in your 8th house right now, as well as Uranus in your 10th. So it is supporting what you want to do for your life and your reputation, and it's giving a lot of energy to that. And you're also getting help from some sort of teacher, some sort of mentor, maybe some sort of experienced person who's been through something before that you're going through now, maybe in your relationship, or maybe dealing with your boss, or dealing with your company and these squabbles that have come up because of this Mercury retrograde there. On the 15th, Mercury goes into Aquarius, into your 7th house. So again, this is now bringing that understanding and these new methods of solving domestic squabbles or solving workplace dynamics, and it's coming into the area where you are now trying to commit your time and energy. The full moon happens the very next day in your 7th as well as your 1st house. So again, you being able to assert your own influence, it's going to affect maybe how you influence people, how you see yourself, how you now are able to project yourself into the world, including your appearance. Then on the 18th, Sun moves into Pisces, which is in your 8th house, and it conjoins with Jupiter on the 24th. So after all of that has been said and done, your energy, your life force, the Lord of your 1st house is moving into the 8th house, and this 8th house transits, never great transits. Sun is conjoining with Jupiter, so it gives you a little bit of a boost. However, here it can also serve as an expansion of the Sun transiting through this house. It's definitely going to expand those issues of things like, money and other people's, birth, death, those types of things, going through a transformation. And of course, you're going through a transformation now because you are trying to change how you are seen in society. So this definitely can go either way. It is a benefic, so it is going to do its job. It's in its own house. It's going to try to protect that house. So it's the transformation can be positively concluded. Then we end the month on the 28th, where Venus conjoins Mars, conjoins Pluto in that 6th house again. So a final step to revisit, to really, really think about your health, whether it's your domestic life or whether it is your work relationships with colleagues or otherwise. This is a very total and conclusive transformation of those areas for you. And indeed, that is what you want. So it is going to give you that transformation that you're looking for in order to further your 1st and 10th house and 7th house goals. So for Virgo ascendants, this new moon is happening in your 6th house, and it is with Saturn, and it is squaring Uranus, which is in your 9th house. So last month could have seen, honestly, a lot of interacting with and even forming romances with people you consider foreign. And this new path and really creed that you want to establish for your life is continuing into this month. The fact that your responsibilities specifically to work or specifically to loved ones, I definitely see a theme of loved ones here, is causing some sort of stress or tension with these different pursuits and really how your life path is sort of unfolding. I definitely see this as a time for you to really have your responsibilities really solidified and planted in a way that is in alignment with your dharma, with your new principles, your new creed, with the path that you want your life to really be following for your health. So on the 4th and the 7th, Mercury turns direct and starts to move forward in your 5th house of Capricorn. I can definitely see miscommunications last month, rethinking maybe these romances that you have sparked with someone that is on this different creed, or is even of the old creed that you were trying to let go of. Maybe some different studies that you are about to throw yourself into, furthering this higher education that you're going after, but you had to sort of rethink it and see where you're allocating your resources and your time. But with Mercury moving direct here, there should be better understanding of the types of educational pursuits that you want to embark upon, whether the romance is going to become committed or whether the romance is serving its purpose, and that's it. Beginning on the 2nd, but definitely on the 14th, Venus is going to conjoin Mars with a sextile to Jupiter and a trine to Uranus. So Venus and Mars are going to be in your 5th house. So this is a very, 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 very romantic, explosive transit for anyone who is not just sort of looking for romantic satisfaction, but even creative satisfaction. Very, very romantic transit right here. And the sextile is coming from Jupiter, which is in your 7th house right now. 7th house Jupiter transits can definitely indicate an eye towards things that we want to commit to for the long term. They are definitely connected with marriage. This trifecta of Venus, Mars in romance and in enjoyment and that type of compatibility, Jupiter in the 7th house of commitment and 7th house of bonds and contracts and the marriage partner, and Uranus in the area of like the life of the marriage itself, definitely just it's going to probably feel like getting married. It's going to probably feel like getting married for a lot of Virgo ascendants, whether that be to a person, to an aspiration, or like I said earlier, this definitely has a 9th house flavor all month, and it's just going to in this Uranus transit for you guys. So marriage to your dharma, to that core purpose. On the 15th, Mercury enters Aquarius into that 6th house. So now after we are reevaluating and understanding those things of the 5th house like we talked about before, now it's taking that knowledge and taking it into the next step. This might be a little bit of a bump right after such like a beautiful alignment on the 14th, where, you know, you are going to encounter things like health issues, maybe things like, again, what you were dealing with before with subordinates. It can definitely manifest as a draining influence. On the 16th, there's the full moon. It is going to be happening in your 6th house as well as in your 12th house. So this definitely makes sense given the theme that we've been talking about with these new changing in ethos and in principles or relocation or higher education. This definitely gives you a time to reevaluate, just as you were starting to at the beginning of the month, and to really sit with yourself now and sit and connect both your physical health and your mental health before you are then going to decide on what to embark upon or how it should look. Then on the 18th, the sun enters Pisces, your 7th house. This is your sun coming into the house of commitment, getting into a contractually binding relationship with one of those things. It conjoins with Jupiter on the 24th. Jupiter is very strong here. Jupiter is in its own house here. So it could be, you know, marital for actually a great many Virgo ascendants, especially the ones who are women or female identified. And this is also a marriage of another kind. Remember, there is a very big 9th house influence here. In a way, when we take on and adopt those things, it is very much like getting married to them, especially if there is anything legally binding us. We end the month with Venus and Mars and Pluto in your 5th house again. A romance that sets you on your path to foreign relocation or sets you on your path to adopting a radically new individual credos for yourself. This super, super creative energy is going to transform what was, cannot be, and will not be anymore. It will be new and it will be different now. And you may end up leaving this person, you may end up staying with this person, but if you do, it won't be like it was before. So for Libra ascendants, this new moon is conjoined with Saturn in your 5th house of romance, love, and relationships, squaring Uranus in your 8th house of the stuff of life. We have the planet of unpredictable changes in the house of literally unexpected changes. There can also be a lot of unexpected and sudden gains throughout this as well by easing into and giving into that energy of Uranus. And now this new moon is in their 5th house, planting the seeds that have to do with that. And I see two connections here: children, progeny, that type of thing. Maybe even inner child work. This is definitely an energy of children, working with children, having children, adopting children of some kind. I see a lot of fostering energy here. And so again, this could look like you guys entering a new relationship and how that pans out with this, and maybe the existing familial structure with children or things that you are responsible for. And that does definitely show this 5th, 8th connection going on here. On the 4th and the 7th, Mercury turns direct and moves, and Mercury is in the 4th house for Libra ascendants. And so again, there is this theme of something about the home structure, the home front, the familial structure, something like that, having to get the details sort of fleshed out over again. Maybe there was a need to sort of expand the house. Maybe there were some technical things that caused issue with either your home setup or just the home dynamic itself. Now on the 4th and 7th, Mercury begins to move direct again with all of that information now at hand. Starting on the 2nd, but really on the 14th, Venus and Mars are also coming into this 4th house as well, sextiling Jupiter and trining Uranus. And while Mars is in a very, very dignified place, Mars, no matter what, is a malefic, and when it's entering a house like the 4th house, it can create a lot of activity here. But as this is the house of your emotional well-being, it could sort of introduce a little bit of emotional unrest as well. Mars connected with the 4th house can typically bring, aggression, maybe arguments, maybe fights. So all of these planets in conversation with each other can definitely feel like you're dealing with the areas of life that are very, very emotional, that stir up a lot of emotionality in you, and maybe, as where Jupiter is placed, involve things that maybe feel like work in some way. So Mars is already a significator of property, 4th house, also property and fixed assets. Venus, value material wealth, definitely could see improvements to your living conditions and possibly good judgment through Venus to actually make these improvements, taking to heart what you learned through Mercury being here. If you need to take out any loans to do this, Jupiter in the 6th house could even give you favorable loans. And with Uranus even in the 8th house, which is about inheritances, and the 4th house being so activated, which is the house of fixed assets, I could even see a change to a will or a conveyance, actually. This is a very strong energy for a conveyance being given to you as well, maybe in addition to your home, or maybe a home being given to you in some way. On the 15th, Mercury enters Aquarius in your 5th house, so romance, children, and creativity. If they are having anything redecorated in their house, if they are moving house at all, there could definitely be the opportunity to have more of them, more of the Libra ascendant in that thing, in that person, or in that relationship, bringing more of yourself into it. Then on the 16th, there's a full moon in this 5th house again, but also in the 11th house. You can see some gains even in this area of life. You can see some changes. You can see maybe a revitalization of your hopes and goals as it pertains to especially your relationship. On the 18th, the sun goes into Pisces, and that's in your 6th house. But with all of this activity going on in your 4th house and in your 8th, I definitely think this is going to be more of a home focus, or if it is a work focus, I definitely think it's going to be a home-life balance focus. As Sun is conjoining with Jupiter on the 24th, this is actually really, really beneficial for you because the 6th house also represents different types of litigations. This energy here could really benefit you to sort of come out on top or find agreement or common ground with maybe siblings that are fighting you for some sort of inheritance, or even housemates or members of your family that you are taking issue with and that are sort of disturbing your emotional peace or disturbing the balance of your family structure. You end the month on the 28th with Venus, Mars, and Pluto all conjunct in your 4th house. So this 4th house has really been a roller coaster for you this month. It's been a thorn in your side at times, but it's also been a place that we all really need to take care of. And this month it was demanding your attention and giving you all the tools that you needed in order to balance out this house again. For Scorpio ascendants, this new moon is taking place with Saturn in your 4th house, and it is squaring Uranus in your 7th house. So Scorpios already know their relationships specifically, as well as just their commitment to anything and everything, have been infringing on their individuality. During this time, Scorpio ascendants might be looking to move as a result. Some of you might even be being compelled to make some sort of large or big purchase. And this is causing a little bit of tension, or it's coming about and the tension is there due to a commitment that you have, probably with a romantic relationship. It might definitely be some sort of relocation or some sort of readjustment, maybe buying or selling of a really big asset due to some sort of responsibility. I definitely can see this because you are taking on a responsibility or have now joined yourself with another person, a romantic relationship, or because you have left. These things are definitely asking a lot of you emotionally as well. On the 4th, Mercury starts to go direct and then moves on the 7th, and this is in your 3rd house. So again, it definitely seems like some sort of move, having to rethink the well-beaten paths or even some of the information that was coming into them. There has been that new information and a reassessment of where am I spending my energy, why am I spending it here, and is this something that I want to commit myself to? Rethinking this contract. On the 2nd and then again on the 14th, Venus is going to conjoin Mars and sextile Jupiter and trine Uranus, and Venus and Mars are going to be in that same 3rd house. So not only are these two planets coming together a very explosive energy, but I definitely feel that here in this house with its aspect to the 7th house, this is a very sort of putting your money where your mouth is, or having the courage. This is very much a house of courage, so having the courage to go after what you want, communicate what you've seen, communicate what you want. And specifically with it making these aspects to the 5th house, where Jupiter is right now in Pisces, and the 7th house where Uranus is in Taurus, there definitely is some person that you're dedicating your time to. And there's a lot more communication between the two of you. There is a lot more like going and seeing each other, a lot of short journeys, a lot of short trips outdoors, COVID safe, or even some sort of negotiation as to, you know, I mean, it's during the pandemic, right? Are we going to do this or what? There is a very beneficial aspect from Jupiter in the 5th house of love, of romance, children, creativity. Very, very romantic, very, very independent, but also fun. I would only caution signing any leases or anything like that with specifically a new romantic partner, because there might be the temptation to do that. Jupiter is very beneficial, but also expansive and is in this risk-taking house. With Uranus shaking this up so much, I think it would still be best to hold off and wait till things align a little bit. Sure enough, on the 15th, Mercury goes into Aquarius in your 4th house. There could be more technology or technology use coming into your home or filling up your emotional space in your heart. So I don't know, with that energy we just saw on Valentine's Day of these new romances and 3rd house, which also kind of can represent like online communication as well. You could be online dating someone right now, or the person you're with could be into technology, or it could be more virtual. 16th is the full moon, which is in your 4th and in your 10th house. The full moon comes here with you also taking account for not only your status in society and how you're seen in society, but on your more public life as well. It could also be just a change to how you do schooling. There's a lot of educational themes going on this month as well, creative, educational, and so you could be learning or studying or doing things inside now or outside now. Maybe there's been a lot of change and fluctuations, especially for those of you who are in school. It could be a change to your study habits. It could be online learning, half online learning, new types of classes that you're taking as well. On the 18th, the Sun enters Pisces in your 5th house, and it joins with Jupiter on the 24th. So this, again, is a lot of creative energy. This is a lot of power going into the area of speculation and going into the area of romance. I see an increase in your thoughts about what you can do or how you can be or how you can look. Not even necessarily because of someone else or because of who you're dating or not dating anymore. And I think that that is going to make you move a little differently in the world and in the public. And on the 28th, at the end of the month, Venus and Mars join Pluto in that 3rd house again. Again, that 3rd house that has been filled with all of this activity, the changing of boundaries, the changing of scene, whether you moved all the way, whether you moved out, whether you moved in with someone, is going to be radically and completely transformed when it meets up with Pluto. But moving away from any sort of romance, again, this could also be a different type of learning. Third house is learning, fifth house is education, fourth house is your home. I mean, this is a recipe for some sort of beneficial outcome to online learning, maybe a new study system. This could also just be if your occupation involves something about communication, something about writing or drafting reports of any kind. You could be transitioning to remote work. Maybe you're even having a lot of new ideas and new creativity and responsibility when it comes to those things too in your department or where you work. For Sagittarius ascendants, the new moon conjunct Saturn is going to be in your third house, squaring Uranus in your sixth house. So this is another combination that really speaks to competition in some way, especially if that competition is at work. Whether it's the introduction of new coworkers, or if you're vying for a job right now, or some sort of illness has peeked up out of nowhere and sort of thrown you off of your work goals. Sagittariuses have been trying to creatively and innovatively find solutions to those problems. The new moon in the third house shows that process of actually trying to find or create even a way to do just that. This could involve a lot of very intensive research or reaching out to your other sources for help. And with the Saturn influence here, it could even mean that you are being tasked with finding the solutions or creating the solutions to these problems. Like, it is your responsibility, it is your job to do that. On the 4th, Mercury turns direct and begins to move on the 7th, and this is happening in your second house of Capricorn. During the retrograde, it might have seemed like things and small finances, small figures that you thought that you had a hold of were seemingly going awry. There could have been more involvement in the family, there could have been strange requests being made in the family now, or a little more rancor as it pertains to things like family events. So with Mercury moving direct here, it means now after all of that new valuation, maybe making finance sheets, maybe really assessing what you want to do and how you want to make money, and also assessing the things about you that make you feel safe, feel good, feel of worth, feel esteemed. But if it doesn't have to do just with money or just with work, then it does have to do with how you view yourself and what standard you're measuring yourself by. Starting on the 2nd, but really culminating on the 14th, Venus meets Mars in this second house again, and it is sextiling Jupiter in your 4th and Uranus in your 6th. Mars is exalted in Capricorn, and Venus, the planet of value and money, is also here. I could see a lot of success in either what you're doing or these new things that it seems like you have to implement now. With the sextile to Jupiter, I definitely see that having a more balanced emotional state first and foremost, and having a more peaceful domestic center is also aiding you in being able to do this. This particular concoction very much also looks like maybe one of those new radical changes you had to do if you're working is to turn virtual or is to come back from virtual, or if you're not working, then you've had to really reassess what it is that makes you feel like you're valuable or contributing. I definitely see there's these new radical ways of thinking about it, and maybe your health or how your health manifests on you, maybe in your body and things like that, has had to be rethought. Jupiter is also your first lord, so no matter what, this transit is going to have an effect on your physical body as well, and on your impact and your influence in your life. For those of you working, it could even show that your income-making area, aka your job, and your work, which is the 6th house, are supported by the fact that now you've set up your home in a way that is better for online work. Maybe you now have an at-home office, or maybe you've gotten away from your home. That was better. Or maybe there is someone in your home who is serving as a benefactor to you, who is serving as a guiding or a inspirational or expanding force to you. And this is correlating and translating into better work and more ease and more success when it comes to those endeavors. On the 15th, Mercury goes into Aquarius, and this is in your 3rd house. So there's definitely going to be more activity. I see that theme of fine print, more communication, definitely an increase in paperwork at the office, so to speak. And with Uranus in your 6th house, bringing in those maybe new changes to your job or new opponents at work, Mercury is now using that methodology to implement these different changes through study, through learning, and through trying different things. The full moon is on the 16th, and that is in your 3rd house as well as your 9th house now. And because it's the moon that's in the 9th house here, it can also show that there is a solidification of these new things that you've been trying, especially as it pertains to, the details and the paperwork and the communication and the new sort of things that you have to do now for work, or the new sort of responsibilities that you have now that is becoming a part of your inner knowing, of your inner knowledge. You have experienced those things, you've tried these different things out, you are saddled with these different things, and now it's becoming like a part of your tool belt. On the 18th, the Sun enters Pisces in your 4th house, and it will conjoin with Jupiter on the 24th. There might be a little more ego clashes in the house, or people wanting their things or what they need to do to be prioritized. But I am of the opinion that Sun here brings warmth. I am of the opinion that Sun here brings a sort of protective energy to the house. It's in a friendly sign, and it is going to meet Jupiter, which is going to expand that Sun influence. So expanding the ego, it can definitely be making your desires, your emotions, what you need, and how the home is yours. It needs to be your way. It is also bringing this energy of like provision, this energy of goodwill, this energy of helpfulness, and this energy of forgiveness, even in the area of not just you and your mental health, but your home and your domestic life. And with the connection with the 1st and 9th houses as well, with Jupiter and Sun here, it can feel like you're being guided, whether that's actually by a parental force. It feels very paternalistic here, so a fatherly force, or just divinely guided. On the 28th, you end the month with Venus and Mars finally meeting Pluto in that 2nd house. So we've been talking about this for a while. Venus and Mars are definitely helping you bring a creative, motivated, go-getter approach. You have the opportunity to know the facts that you need, to know and implement these new methodologies, and they will help you introduce these new things to the workplace or to beat these new things in the workplace. You can definitely find a new way to value yourself and a new way to think about you and your impact and how you can go about getting what you want. For Capricorn ascendants, the new moon conjunct Saturn is happening in your 2nd house, and it's squaring Uranus in your 5th house. So romance, learning new things, creativity, and taking some risks have been a theme for Capricorn for a while. January supported your creativity in the taking of these risks. And now with the Sun and Moon and Saturn in the 2nd house, it's planting the seeds of how you yourself can start to earn income and earn validation through these new creative pursuits that you're doing, through a new relationship, and just by getting a little more educated and really taking that risk. These new things that Capricorns you want to develop, whether it be introducing more creativity into your workplace, doing something creative with your life and putting yourself out there, or starting this new romance or ending an old one. This new moon is planting the seeds to set you up to earn. A lot of Capricorn ascendants could have felt that, these changes to, this new creative thing that they want to do, or new education that they want to pursue, or even this romance that they're trying to start or that they're trying to shake off, has been causing a little bit of insecurity when it does pertain to that 2nd house. February is really a time to rectify that area for Capricorns. On the 4th, Mercury turns direct and begins to move on the 7th, and this is happening in your 1st house. So while retrograde Mercury was definitely having a lot of Capricorns reassessing themselves, maybe even picking themselves apart a little bit. Little small forgets or small mistakes could have cost you a little more than you thought that it would. But with Mercury moving direct like this, Capricorns can finally sort of understand with how they're doing and how they're really showing up in the world and the things that they think and their outlook, how that's affecting all of their life, and this can lead them to making better choices. And this might even come through the areas of what you're doing for your health now, how you're scheduling your routine now. Can you become more or less organized? Do you need more free time? On the 2nd, but really culminating on the 14th, Venus is conjoined with Mars, and this is happening in Capricorn's 1st house. It's sextile Jupiter, which is in the 3rd, and trine Uranus in the 5th. So Capricorns have been having the theme of a makeover for so long now. So Venus and Mars coming here is a really interesting combination. It's going to make Capricorn ascendants look very, very attractive at this time. Mars going through the first house can make you look competitive, and that can attract competitors as well as attract people who say they don't want to compete with you. Venus makes you seem more diplomatic, makes you seem like someone that they want to work with, makes you seem like someone who is a valuable asset, or someone who can add value or beauty to their lives. So this definitely would be supportive to anything that you want to do pertaining to your career, pertaining to putting yourself out there. You could get someone who gives you information very, very easily, someone who's very accessible to you right across the street, right down the street, or just a phone call away. And anything that you're doing creatively, especially if you're going to put it on social media, or if you're trying to create a website, or if you're trying to just be more marketable to jobs which are doing a lot of virtual hiring right now, this is a wonderful and great transit to make you that candidate that they want, or to make your business really take off or really gain some traction this month. If you are looking to start a new relationship, this transit can really help you not only really go get and orchestrate that relationship the way that you want, but also to make you really attractive to other people. Like they want to take that chance on you, or they want to sort of enjoy and be in your company. On the 15th, Mercury goes into Aquarius, into your second house. Mercury is well placed here, so I definitely see this as really helping your speech here. This can also help you take a more logistical approach to your finances. And it can even show that you gain new skills, or you have gained new skills already. Mercury is also a youthful person, so this could mean really gaining a boost with marketing to the youth. It could mean that you're working with younger people. On the 16th, the full moon happens in your second house, of course, but in your 8th house. The 8th house is never the easiest transit, but especially with the moon here, this is also one of the hardest places for the moon to be. The new moon was you taking responsibility for your own finances and really heightening your ability to make income and your value. And this full moon is now bringing into you as a part of your working structure that you have. So if you were in a relationship and either you're trying to shake it or you're just trying to make it new and spice it up, is going to put a spotlight on what you are bringing to the table, what they're bringing to the table in all the ways. This can definitely call you and your relationship to task. On the 18th, the sun enters Pisces in your third house and conjoins with Jupiter on the 24th. This transit here is going to give a level of authority or authoritativeness to your communication. This is a transit of adjustment into new things that you're doing in your life, new boundaries that you're setting up, new tasks that you're taking on, new hobbies, new things that you're learning. Of course, this is a very educational conjunction in the third house here. And while this can be a little bit domineering, Jupiter here can temper it. However, this conjunction here in this house will increase the amount of involvement, activity, communication, and just overall marketing and output that you're doing. You end the month on the 28th with Venus and Mars conjoined with Pluto in your first house. Venus and Mars here have been working overtime to really help you market yourself, to help you get the things that you want and attract the things into your life that you want that are more aligned with your value system, things that your drive can actually take you towards. After maybe having some of these experiences and doing some of these things, you come to realize your own values or your own motivations may be transformed by this, or the things that you were attracting to yourselves and the things that you were getting has caused a transformation in you. At the end of this month, Capricorns, and they've probably been feeling this way for a while, will definitely feel like brand new people. They have been changing for months, but now this is the final direct movement over Pluto and out of it thereafter. Thank you everyone for watching. I hope that that was very informative and helpful for everyone. If you see any themes or resonate with any of them, or if you have any plans that are in alignment with some of what's been said, let me know. Or come back to this video later, stop by and let me know if the things have actually played out in any way like how the predictions said that they would. Everyone have a fruitful February and a happy Valentine's Day, and I will see you in the next video.